The radical, fundamental principles of freedom, rational self-interest, and individual rights. This is the Yaron Brook Show.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Yaron Brook Show. I hope everybody's having or had a great week. It's Friday today. It was a busy week. God, a lot of shows, a lot of just a busy week. Anyway, it doesn't end. So in an hour and a half, I would be debating the welfare state with Matt Bruenig, something like that. Anyway, I put the link up in the chat, so if you're interested in joining us, it's going to be live streamed, so it'd be great to have you there. It'd be great to have some support. I have a feeling the channel I'm debating him on is a leftist channel. We'll be debating the welfare state, so yeah, please come over and show some support. That would be fantastic. Then we've got tomorrow. I'm doing my Hebrew show, the show to Israel in Hebrew. At 12 p.m. East Coast time, and then we will do a show at 2. There'll be a show 2, and I'll be putting up the title and everything for that. That one is sponsored by Andrew, and then on Sunday I'm doing a lengthy debate on the Israeli-Palestinian issue. For for somebody's podcast, that won't be live, but as soon as it is uploaded, I will let you know. But that should be. They're talking about a 4-hour debate, so they want to match, I guess, Lex Friedman. We will see if we can really go that long, and how quickly both sides boil over and start yelling at each other. But I have a feeling that'll happen pretty quickly. All right, so that's my schedule for the week, for the relaxing weekend. It's nonstop work, 4-hour debate on Sunday. All right, let's see. What else do we need to do? I think we'll just jump into the news. So, Candace Owen, remember Candace Owen? You know Candace Owen, a popular right-wing talk show host who's been at the Daily Wire for a few years now, came out of Turning Point USA, went to Daily Wire, has a huge following, very, very popular on the right, particularly among the MAGA right. Anyway, Candace Owens is out at the Daily Wire. Probably fired, but it's not clear. Anyway, could be mutual agreement. Could she quit? Not clear. Nobody's saying. Jeremy Boring, who is the CEO and co-founder with Ben Shapiro of the Daily Wire, wrote, Daily Wire and Candace Owen have ended their relationship. Couldn't see that one coming, huh? Anyway, she's out, and this probably has to do with the fact that she has been a vocal critic of any kind of American support to Israel. She has flirted, or you could argue more than flirted, with anti-Semitic comments and anti-Semitic sentiments, and blaming Ben Shapiro for being more aligned with Israel than with America, similar to Tucker Carlson. I guess they get their same talking points from, I don't know, Bannon. I'm not sure who they get their talking points from. But anyway, the two of them. So Candace Owen is out. The thing that probably triggered this particular action by the Daily Wire was the fact that Nick Fuentes, known anti-Semite, you don't have to speculate, he just says it, known anti-Semite and general bigot and general horrible human being, praised Candace Owen for her, I guess, standing up to the ADL or standing up against some Jewish thing. And even though she claims she doesn't know Nick Fuentes, I think that was kind of, when one of your hosts is being praised by Nick Fuentes, it's time to fire them, I think. So, she's gone. Daily Wire now is Ben Shapiro, and of course we got Matt Walsh, and so it's mainly kind of very religious conservatives, reactionary conservatives, and we will see. We'll see if this has any kind of repercussions, if it has any kind of impact, greater impact on the right than what it is. But yeah, I'm hoping that this will be a demotion for Candace Owens. I hope she loses a bunch of followers. I hope she fails at whatever she does next. But that's not my expectation, because I can't stand Candace Owens. I think she's horrible and has been for a long time. She was pretty good when she first came up as kind of a voice against certain woke policies. But she's just become a horrible mouthpiece for the alt-right, and a number of different things her views are just awful. Anyway, I hope she fails. Yep, it's because I envy her, no question about that. So I hope she fails, and I also expect her to succeed. I think she's going to do phenomenally well, because I think this part of the right, the alt-right, the MAGA right, the American, isolationist, whatever right, is on the rise. So her and Tucker Carlson are going to make a great team, and they might be the future of America. So, yeah, they might be the future of America. Anyway, some people think I criticize her because I envy her. She's like a gazillion times more popular than I am, and she's a lot less intelligent. So I'm sure it's envy, right? That is the dominant thing I feel towards Candace Owens. All right. God, you guys are so shallow. Let's see. Yeah, the lobotomized right, the Trump lobotomized right. All right, just some other anti-Israelis that Candace Owens inspired in me to think about anti-Israelis, but there is a lot going on that front. On March 9th, supposedly a Intel engineer went out in the Civic Space Park in Phoenix, Arizona, with a bullhorn, and basically declared to the world that he is supportive of Hamas and vehemently anti-Israel. To quote him, quote, "Read my lips, I will not condemn the Houthis of Yemen. I will not condemn the PFLP, that's a Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, a terrorist organization, a known established terrorist organization. I will not condemn Hezbollah, and I will not condemn Hamas." And yeah, he is a full-time employee supposedly at Intel. Hopefully he loses his job, right? I mean, this is a celebration of murder, a celebration of nihilism. I don't want to work with somebody like that. I don't want him as my employee. I don't want him as my co-worker. I don't want him as my boss. I hope somebody fires him. PFLP, by the way, is a foreign terrorist organization designated such by the United States, the EU, and Canada. And it's carried out assassinations, suicide bombings, hijackings, and multiple murders. I actually haven't heard of the PFLP in a long time. It's been many, many years since I heard them, but I guess they're being resurrected now by the anti-Israeli lobby all over the place. Anyway, that was just one occurrence. At the same time, let's see, this is MIT students. Yeah, At MIT, students or alumni wanted to invite Warren Ross to come and give a talk after some students invited a pro-Hamas person to give a talk, a Hamas apologist to speak at an event that was going to take place on March 18th. And so the MIT Jewish Alumni Alliance objected, and so they suggested that at the same time, or around the same time, they would invite Dennis Ross, who's the former U.S. envoy to the Middle East, is a diplomat, served under both both Reagan and Bush and Clinton and Obama, last under Obama. Well respected and served in both Republican and Democratic. At first, the administration thought this was a good idea, and then they came back and said, no, we can't have Dennis Ross. We shouldn't get involved in politics. So they canceled the event. They canceled the Dennis Ross event at MIT. And they continue to support events by haters of Israel. They continue to support events by apologists for Hamas. That can still go on, but anybody trying to defend Israel, Ross, who's, Ross is not that strong a defender of Israel, but very conventional. If you support Israel in the war, then you cannot speak at MIT. It's pretty bleak at an American university. All right, finally, at Harvard University, just in case you're worried, Harvard University, across not that far from MIT, there was a community wake on campus yesterday, I guess. And the wake, this is actually 3 days ago, the wake was for the poor Palestinians, the Palestinian victims of the raid that the Israeli military did of Al-Shifa Hospital, which we talked about, where they killed Faik Mabhouk, who is the head of Operation Directorate of Hamas Internal Security. In other words, there's a community wake for Al-Shifa Hospital at Harvard University. Community wake at Al-Shifa Hospital. At Harvard University for Al-Shifa Hospital. Al-Shifa Hospital, in that hospital, the Israeli army says it killed about 80 terrorists, 80 members of Hamas. It killed a major commander of Hamas. This is inside a hospital. And has arrested about 200 Hamas members and taken them for interrogation in Israel. So don't condemn Hamas for hiding in a hospital, for using a hospital to attack Israel. Don't condemn Hamas for having hundreds of terrorists inside a hospital of the people you claim to care about, claim to protect. No. The wake is not for Israel and for the Israeli soldiers. A couple of Israeli soldiers were killed in this in the raid into the hospital. This is a wake for Hamas. Talk about blaming the victim. Talk about, which is Israel. Talk about moral inversion. Talk about evil at Harvard University. Evil. Hamas is a authoritarian Islamist regime, government, dedicated to subjugation of their own people. And above and beyond that, dedicated to the destruction of Israel, the murder of Jews, basically dedicated to genocide. I mean, the Hamas charter is a genocidal charter. And destroying Hamas is now something that in Harvard University you have a sit-in and a wake for, and you mourn it. Country's going to hell. All right. I mean, this is Harvard and MIT. Harvard, I mean, these are the top institutions in the world. All right, let's see. This one's an amazing story, right? So in the United States, in many states in America, squatters can enter a vacated home. And if they're not, I think, if they're not evacuated from there in 30 days, they gain squatter rights. And basically, it's almost impossible to get rid of them. It's almost impossible to legally get them out. In New York City, a fed-up homeowner was arrested after squatters basically took over $1 million home that she inherited from her parents. And they changed the door, changed the locks, and it was their home now. And she went there and she tried to change the locks, and she was arrested. Squatters weren't. She was arrested. You have to go through this legal process of trying to get the squatters out that can take months, years, cost you a fortune. And in trying to get people who are using force against your own property, violating property rights without any, clear-cut, unequivocal, you are somehow the problem. You are the bad guy. Right? You are the bad guy. It's pretty stunning. Yeah. Pretty stunning. So this was in New York City, right? But you have the same thing in Washington State and Oregon and a bunch of places down the country. In Bellevue, in Washington, there is a serial. This is kind of interesting. There is a serial squatter named Sang Kim. He moves from house to house. I'm getting this from the Free Press, which each squat taking so long to reserve, he's got free housing basically. When his recent victim tried to get back into the property he owned, Sang Kim complained to the cops, and the cops arrested the landlord. He was issued a restraining order from going within 1,000 feet of his property and the squatter. I mean, you find a vacant house, it's yours. Or at least it's yours for a long period of time while the legal system churns through to try to get you out of there. Now, all this comes from a legal theory that basically says, this is leftist legal theory, comes out of Yale, probably, right? Property ownership is violence. And as a society, we should do everything we can to make it hell for property owners. And that's what we're trying to do. Trying to make it almost impossible for property owners to defend their property. Trying to make it almost impossible for property owners to prevent people from stealing their property, from using their property without permission. And this is all a consequence of kind of a Marxist or neo-Marxist view that all property is theft. You've probably heard that. The leftists yell this at every opportunity. All property is theft, so therefore, let's steal it back. This is America. This is the country that was built on the principle of individual rights, and among those, property rights. Of all our rights, the right to life, the application of that right is property. It's the ability to use and maintain and sustain and the things that you own. And the United States now not allowing that. Not allowing that. It really is stunning. It really is stunning. I don't think this exists in other countries. Maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't. I mean, and of all the countries in the world, you'd expect this to be outlawed here. But this is the left's dominance of the legal system, the left's dominance of law schools, in spite of the Federalist Society's work. This is what happens. It truly is disturbing. Ian Gilmore says, at one point, squatters were a huge problem in Germany. Interesting. What would be interesting is if how the Germans solved the problem. I mean, I'd be curious how that happened. Maybe Ian knows. All right, I guess there was a squatting movement, and I'm sure their motto was, property is theft, private property is theft. All right, there's a lot of concern in the world about journalism, and the fact that journalism is in decline. I mean, it's very difficult to sustain local newspapers, even national newspapers, with the exception maybe of the New York Times and the Washington Post and Wall Street Journal. Pretty much every other newspaper is in the red. Basically, newspapers throughout are struggling, and they're cutting back, they're cutting journals. You know, the LA Times seems to go through iteration after iteration after iteration of craziness and insanity, bankruptcy and new owners and cutting staff and not covering the topics and on and on and on and on and on, right? And a lot of this has to do with the fact that the business model journalism was based on is broken. The business model was advertising in newspapers, and nobody advertises in newspapers. Now everything is moved online, and it makes no sense. And the fact that people don't want to consume paper, and if they're going to read a newspaper, you have to really have some value added for them, because they have access to every newspaper in the world that's online. And they're not going to pay you, right? People pay a subscription to the New York Times and the Washington Post because they're the New York Times and Washington Post. But they're not going to pay a subscription for every second-rate newspaper around the country. So a lot of journalism is going out of favor and disappearing. And even billionaires who've stepped in and said, "Oh, we'll buy newspapers and we'll keep them going," have failed. I mean, maybe with the exception of Washington Post with Jeff Bezos, but a lot of local papers that were bought by wealthy individuals just haven't been successful, and ultimately they've cut costs and shrunk and become less significant and provided less journalism. Now, some of you might think that's a good idea, but we need journalists. And believe me, most of the alternative media doesn't provide journalists. What the alternative media, left and right, provide is commentary. So whether we like it or not, we need somebody to actually go and see what happened and tell us what happened, and then we can comment on it. But there's very little and a real shortage now in journalism. So Garcia Mochkovsky, the dean of CUNY's Graduate School of Journalism, has an op-ed in the New York Times saying, "I've got the solution for this." And what she's suggesting is what you'd expect to suggest. There's not enough journalists. So what we should do is we should subsidize journalism. And how should we subsidize journalism? Well, certainly one way to subsidize journalism is by making journalism schools free. That is, let's get the government involved in subsidizing journalism schools. I'm sure only good stuff will come of that, right? Right? Because, hey, journalism schools are not biased. Journalism schools are, what's going on here? Journalism schools have done such a good job so far in developing journalists, and of course, the government involvement in these things, that's not a problem. Never has been a problem. First Amendment, It's interesting because while all this panic about journalism is going on, what you're getting is these new models of journalism, actual journalism. The Free Press being a good example of this, Barry Weiss's publication. Not only, the Free Press started out more as a place for commentary. It is now hiring journalists. It is now going out there and, in a sense, finding and reporting on news. It is not just commentary anymore. The same is true at the Dispatch. So it's true that local and conventional mainstream media is faltering, and that journalism, conventional journalism, is disappearing. There is a lot of new models, new business models that are actually trying to be profitable, actually trying to make money while providing journalism as well. Quillette is not journalism. Quillette is commentary. I mean, maybe it has some journalism, but its essential is not journalism, from what I can tell. So people will always, leftist academics will always view one solution for every problem they see. Every problem they see, there's always one solution, and that is more government. More government. Yeah, I mean, War Beef says, I don't want to consume anything from a journalist. But you do, all the time. Everything you know about the news, you're consuming from a journalist. Every single thing you know about the news, even if it's from your alt-right weirdo stations, they don't know anything unless a journalist reports on it. So you don't know anything without some journalist somewhere reporting on something that you can then interpret the way you want to. But this idea that we can somehow get the news, it's revealed to us directly, right? Or the idea that some of these wacky right-wing or left-wing, alt media have actual journalists on the ground. They don't. They don't. They get their news from mainstream journalists, and then they interpret it, they follow up, they ask questions, they do all that stuff. But they're not literally reporting on the news. They don't have access to it. All right. Where is everybody today? All right, finally. This is it's pretty funny. This is pretty funny, but, all the hysteria, the crisis at the border, we're being overrun by immigrants. This is a frigging disaster, we are told. And in the last few weeks, study after study by economists, have revealed that there is a very high probability that the U.S. economy is doing okay, that we never went into a recession, for example, in spite of spiking interest rates, because of immigration. Indeed, that immigration is helping bolster the U.S. economy, despite all the problems and despite the fact that other countries like Germany, the UK, Japan, are really, really, really struggling. GDP growth in the United States is actually quite healthy. And that, to a large extent, that surprised economists. And one of the things, the reason it surprised economists, is because they didn't take into account the fact that all those illegal immigrants coming across the border who are finding work, or all those asylum seekers who, after 9 months of being on the government dole, are given work visas and allowed to work, or forge some kind of work thing and go to work, all of those people actually work. Work means production. Work means stuff gets done. Work means products get made. Work means services get provided. Work means the economy grows. Immigration is a massive net benefit to the economy. Now, inflation is around, but the cause of inflation, we know what the cause of inflation is. The cause of inflation is helicopter money during COVID. Trump and then Biden. But what immigrants have done is, by filling in positions that Americans wouldn't, or Americans don't, they've increased the amount of goods, which actually helps lower inflation, and increases production, increases the size of the economy. Immigration has always been a win-win-win story. It's always been a benefit. So, yay for immigration. We need more of it, not less of it, and for a lot of different reasons. And we just need to make it legal, and we need to stop paying them welfare. But the only reason we give them welfare is because of this asylum system, which is nuts. We should just have a work-based immigration policy and invite as many people as will come to actually get jobs here in the United States. So I'll keep pushing that system, and the evidence just keeps coming in overwhelmingly. There's like a dozen stories just recently about the positive impact of all these illegal immigrants coming across the border that everybody's freaking out over and in a panic mode over. It's a border crisis. It's an invasion. I've never heard of an invasion that actually causes an increase in economic growth, an invasion that actually generates massive benefits to the people being, quote, invaded. It just shows the complete bankruptcy of the right, a complete bankruptcy, the complete bankruptcy in terms of how they think or not think, because they don't think, about these issues. All right. Those are the stories that I have. I'll just remind you, because some of you, just remind you that in an hour, I'm doing a debate on the welfare state. And you're invited to join. It'll be live stream. I'm going to put up the link in the chat now, but hopefully you guys can join the live stream. Be great to have your support there in the comments section. But that is the chat. So that's an hour and a half at 2:30 East Coast time. It's going to be with some guy. All right, let's see. I see that we have the anti-Semites here. That's always nice to know that they come out in force. Whenever people say things like, "He had that Jew on," that's coming from a very, very obvious place. They're here. The Israel haters, the Jew haters are all out, and they will continue to be out because I'll continue to defend Israel against the barbarians and critique Israel when appropriate, which is all the time, really. But I'll be a defender, and they will continue to hate because that's what they do. They hate, and the sad thing, the tragedy, of course, is not that they hate, that's their problem, I don't really care. It's that they claim some relationship with objectivism when they are the exact opposite. I mean, Ayn Rand would be disgusted by them, and Leonard Peikoff would be, and it's just horrific. I mean, not horrific that they are what they are, but horrific that they associate themselves with objectivism. That is pretty pathetic. All right, we don't have a lot of questions, so if you want to ask a question, now's a good time. We got a bunch of stickers. Gail, thank you. Jean, thank you. Paul, thank you. Robert, thank you. John, thank you. Catherine, thank you. We got Stephen Harper. Not a lot of questions, but a bunch of small stickers, and I appreciate that. And I know that it really means a lot. And we've exceeded our goal pretty much every day this week, so you guys are being terrific. All right, so questions. If anybody wants to jump in with more questions, now's the time, because I'm going to finish these pretty quickly, and we'll have a pretty short show, which is fine with me. I've got a long weekend still to go, including a debate with the Palestinian about the Israeli-Palestinian situation. All right. Mark, I notice a lot of anti-Israel people talking about how Israel accepts pedophile immigrants. I don't want to look that up. Can you explain? No, I cannot explain. I think that's I think the explanation is simple. The people who are saying this, right, are making stuff up. They are. What is it called? Fake news, and they make stuff up, and but they say it often enough that it comes across as real. I'm sure somebody in the chat here is going to explain to me how Israel accepts pedophile immigrants and showers them with gifts. I'm sure they'll have some link to some bizarre story. No, Israel, if you're a pedophile, you go to jail. If you have been criminally prosecuted for something like pedophilia outside of Israel, they're not gonna welcome you in. But Israel does err on the side of allowing Jews to come, and the burden of not letting a Jew into Israel is pretty high. So there might have been some cases in which somebody snuck, through the gap, snuck in and became a citizen of Israel in spite of being a pedophile in the past. But this is not any kind of policy. And certainly the policy is the opposite, the exact opposite. Israel has an incredible history, an incredible respect for rights and for life. And as a consequence, it would not have any respect and would not have provide any protection and would not condone anybody who is a pedophile. Thomas, hey, Yaron, how do you avoid getting pickpocketed when traveling internationally? Money belt, bag, etc. No, I mean, I haven't worn a money belt in many, many years. If I'm in a place that is very high prevalence of pickpocketing, like Rio de Janeiro, unfortunately, I usually carry, I carry very little in my pockets, but I usually put my wallet in my front pocket, not my back pocket. I have trousers that have a button on the back pocket, and most of the time when I'm overseas, I have it buttoned in that back pocket. What else do I do? In certain areas, if I'm wearing a backpack or something like that, I'll wear it in the front, not in the back, right? I'll wear it across my chest. So just basic strategies. I've never been pickpocketed. As you know, I've been, 70, 80 countries, depending on how you define a country, and walked around in all of them pretty much and spent time, and I've never been pickpocketed. I mean, I don't know if there've been any attempts because I'm not sure I'd feel them, but it's never happened. I think part of it is pickpocketers go for the low-hanging fruit. So they look at a crowd and they're looking for somebody relatively weak, relatively slow, and maybe who's got his wallet half sticking out of his pants, so he's got his phone stuck in his back pocket. I mean, I'm surprised there's not a lot more pickpockets, given how I see people just stick their phone in the back pocket where it's 3/4 out, and it would be easy to just grab it and run. So I've been lucky maybe, or maybe I just look like I know what I'm doing, and a little bit of confidence when you walk and they stay away from you. I don't know. That is all, those are good questions, but I don't know the empirics of it. Stephen, should the Department of Justice be eliminated, or do we need it to protect justice? I mean, I think you probably need a Department of Justice to the extent that you have any kind of federal police. It would be that part of the executive branch that runs that. To the extent that there are accusations of federal government corruption, federal government employees or politicians that violate the law, the state justice departments wouldn't be taking care of that, so they would prosecute that. So I think you would have a Department of Justice, both at the state level and at the federal level. They would be the attorney generals prosecuting either statewide crimes or federal crimes. And they would be responsible for monitoring the corruption at the federal government level and among politicians and monitoring whatever kind of federal police, FBI, a free society had. So I think that's right. Okay, JJ Jigbees. I'm going to Israel in 2 weeks to visit family. I'd like to take advantage of it and talk with people while there. Any general thoughts? Yeah, I mean, you should get in touch with Boaz Arad, who runs the Objectivists, the Ayn Rand Center Israel, who's a great guy, and who I think will be happy to introduce you to people and to get you in front of people so that you can talk to them. I think that is the best way to do it. So if you're interested in getting in touch with Boaz, drop me an email and I'll make an introduction. But Boaz Arad, Ayn Rand Center Israel is the best source of information. Scott, this is a different Scott, right? This is a much more vicious, Israel-hating, Jew-hating Scott. Anyway, he writes, Yaron likes to evade facts. I mean, this is really simple. We have a Super Chat feature. I challenge Scott or anybody else to put up in the Super Chat questions for me to answer, including facts that they claim I evade. So I'm happy. I've never not answered a Super Chat question. So bring it to the Super Chat, ask the questions, but I'm not going to interact with, people I have zero respect for on Twitter or other places. You want to do it, there's a mechanism. I've created a mechanism. Anybody can ask me anything, and I answer everything. Everything. I've never really said, I'm not answering that question. So there you go. You've got it, but you're not going to take advantage of it because I actually do have answers to all the distortions and perversions and weird way you look at the world. But bring it on. It's right here on the Super Chat. It's available. You can ask me anything. Prove how I evade facts. Candace is the Russian whore that something on Trump. All right. Thank you, I'm Meerkat. You're going to get me kicked off YouTube? Yeah, he's in the Dominican Republic. They don't allow him to pay. They allow everybody else to pay. Somehow, everybody else manages to pay from all over the world, but Dominican Republic doesn't. Maybe that's okay. So be it. Then you have to wait until you travel to the U.S. or something to do it. Robert, whoops, I didn't do that. Robert says, heavy-duty snow day in Michigan. All right. You guys are getting what you pay for. This is great. Looking forward to staying in, keeping warm, and listening to your debate with the Welfare Statist. Go get them. Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting. I'm completely unprepared for this debate in the sense that I've been so frigging swamped. So swamped. All right, Thomas, a messenger. How would you go through a big museum? I want to look at the amazing details, but don't want to waste a lot of time on any one piece. That's the mistake. This is what you should do with a big museum. Now, I'm assuming you're a beginner, so tell me if you're not. But my view, if you're beginning, is don't feel the compulsion to have to see everything. Don't feel like you've got to spend a whole day there. There is such a thing as museum fatigue, and it's real, and you should pay attention to your body and not overdo it. Walk into a room in a museum, scan the room, see if any paintings, speak to you, evoke any emotion in you, resonate with you. Go up to the painting that does, and try to think about what it is about the painting that attracted you or revulsed you or caused some kind of emotion in you. What caused it? What was it about? Spend time on the details. Read the description. Look at the artist's name. But try to really let the painting sink in a little bit and really just try to get it. Try to understand why you're responding the way you are. Then go to the next room and do the same thing. And if there are rooms where nothing appeals to you, walk right through them. So you shouldn't feel like you have to get everything done. You have to see everything. Right? Be selfish about it. Focus in on learning, on discovering. You'll have other opportunities to go to other museums over time. You'll expand your knowledge. You'll go and see more, but don't make it a kind of a duty thing. Make it I want to learn. I want to figure out what I like. I want to figure out what's here. And what you like will expand, contract, change over time. All right, I have to read this. This is, thank you, Thomas. Good luck at the museum. Happy to help. This is the stupidity of Scott, right? So money is greater than truth. But anyway, like I said, the DR doesn't show me. No, money is not greater than truth, but truth is being revealed on this show every day. I don't need you to discover the truth. I don't need to convince you of the truth. I don't care about you. I really don't. So whether you discover the truth or not, that's your problem, not mine. I'm not obliged to provide Scott Edwards with the truth, listen to the show. If you agree with me, or if you want to go and think about what I say, or if you want to go and do the research based on what I said, great. If you want to evade it, ignore it, great. If I'm wrong, okay, then I'm wrong. But I don't owe you anything. I don't owe you the truth. I owe my other listeners the truth, but I don't owe you. And if you're not willing to pay like everybody else pays to ask a question, why should I engage? I'm only engaging because I know other people have the same thing, and it helps me bring out certain points. But Mark says, all the best in your debate. Apparently, Bruenig thinks it's easy to argue against the anti-welfare state position. I expect him to be surprised. I think that he debated Don Watkins, I guess. And yeah, I mean, these people think they win the debate, and they think they're better than you because they can cite studies and they can bring up stats, and they can do all that stuff. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure he'll be good, really, really good at that. And you know, he'll enjoy his perceived self-perceived victory. Yeah. Yeah, just to go back to the museum question, don't try to do too much in a museum. Your mind can only absorb so much. There's only so much it can integrate. You know, and that's why we get museum fatigue. So, and even I get it, right? So I'm very experienced at this. So make it shorter but more meaningful, and then go back another day or go back in the afternoon and do some more. But to try to do a whole museum, to go to the Louvre in Paris or something and try to see everything, that's ridiculous. You know, you're never going to do it, and it'll exhaust you, and you'll never get any pleasure out of it. And because it's a duty, it'll become something you don't like and you don't enjoy. And next time you go to a museum, you'll resist it. And so, no, make it fun. Make it interesting. All right, Neocon. Candace Owens being gone is a time to celebrate with a beer she defended. With a beer she defended. I don't know what that refers to. Regimes of Hamas and Russia, she's just as bad as the anti-West left. Absolutely. The anti-West right is just as, and she's an anti-West right, is just as bad as the anti-West left. And remember, she also said that the biggest villains in our society, literally the biggest villains in our society, were Big Pharma. I mean, just that is disgusting and despicable. I mean, just that would warrant never listening to her again. In the Fountainhead, why does Howard Roark agree to help Peter multiple times instead of just refusing to help him? I think because it's a he enjoys the challenge. It's, you know, with Roark, it's very much about, I want to build. I want to see my buildings be out there. He doesn't help Keating in a way that compromises his own designs, Roark's designs. He helps Keating as a way to bring his own designs into reality. And I think he has a very benevolent view, and mistakenly benevolent in some ways, of people like Keating. And again, it's a novel. But it really, it serves to focus, first of all, how somebody who's self-interested and independent can be benevolent. And second, it serves the purpose of showing that what Roark really cares about is not credit, it's not his name, name recognition or anything like that. It is absolutely unequivocally, it is the work itself. And he's willing to do the work itself even if he doesn't get the recognition for it. Stephen Hopper, I have been to the Louvre Museum about 30 times. Cool. My favorite is the top floor of the Richel section, Northern European. It is also less crowded than most of the museum. Yeah, I mean, my favorite at the Louvre is the room with the dying slaves. what do you call it? Michelangelo's Dying Slaves. There's also some other beautiful sculptures, maybe Canova's best sculptures in that room. Then there is a sculpture garden outside, which has Spartacus, which is one of my favorite sculptures. And yes, I mean, the Northern European, what they have from Holland and is quite beautiful. Everybody rushes to see the Mona Lisa. Unfortunately, it's so crowded you can't really see it. But of course, I love the Renaissance art, so I usually go there as well. But you know, I haven't been to the Louvre in quite a while. Last time I was in Paris, I wanted to go. And I walked over to the Louvre, and there was this long line. And it turns out you can't get in these days unless you make a reservation in advance and buy a ticket in advance or stand in line for hours. So next time I'm in Paris, I haven't been to the Louvre in a long time, so it's on my agenda to go. I have not been 30 times, so I'm a little jealous of that. I would love, that is an amazing number. I've probably been a half dozen times, maybe less, 4 or 5 times maybe. But there's so much to see at the Louvre. Literally so much to see at the Louvre. All right. Okay, that is actually all the questions we have today. Jason said, Candace fired beer credit. I don't know what that means. I don't know what beer credit is. How can you fire beer credit? Is that a thing? So I don't actually know what it is. All right. Why will this? Yeah, continue. Let me just. I need to get this scrolling again. Continue. All right, everything's working. Okay, so I don't know what fired beer credit means. Robert says, that's funny, Jason Adams. Objectivists Matter ARC-UK has an Owen Jones mention tip jar. Here we can have a Candace Owens mention tip jar. All right, you guys, I don't even know what that means. That every time we mention Candace Owens, somebody puts money in a somebody contributes money. Is that it? I don't drink beer. Maybe that's the problem, that I don't drink. Oh, I get beer credit. Oh, so yeah, but I don't drink beer. I don't like beer. I mean, maybe a Guinness like once every 5 years, but yeah, no, I don't drink beer. Thomas Missengli, favorite pieces in the Rodin Museum and Musée d'Orsay. God, Musée d'Orsay has so many. There's a beautiful Venus by Cabanel. There is the young Aristotle. There's a sculpture of the young Aristotle. I mean, at the d'Orsay, just stay on the first floor. You don't have to go to the other floors. And just walk slowly through the first floor. There's so many good sculptures, so many good paintings. It's one of my favorite museums in the world. And you don't have to spend a huge amount of time there because the first floor has everything that I love. I mean, the rest is Impressionists, who I like, but I don't love. And I can see Impressionists anyway. So yes, the Cabanel, the Jerome's there that I love. I can't remember which ones. What else do I love in the Orsay? I mean, just the sculpture. All the sculptures are good. At the Rodin Museum, I think the thing I like best at the Rodin Museum is Rodin did a number of portraitures of women, busts of women, and there are 3 or 4 of them that are just beautiful. Just beautiful. I mean, there's a lot I don't like at the Rodin Museum because there's a lot I don't like of Rodin. And generally, I think Rodin had a horrible, horrible sense of life and a horrible philosophical attitude. And that comes across in his sculpture. I like his first kind of male nude, one of his first sculptures. And I like some of the couples entangled. Less so the kiss, but there are other ones that are beautiful. And then I like his portraits of women. Some of them are just beautiful, sensuous, just super, super amazing. Tom Burrows, you like soccer. What other sports, if at all, do you follow and admire, and why? I like soccer. I don't watch a lot of soccer. I watch the World Cup. I don't really watch soccer outside of the World Cup. I used to watch a lot more. I like basketball. Why? It's fast, super athletic. I mean, God, those are amazing athletes, what they can do with a ball, what they can do with their bodies, the strength that you need to play it, the agility, the control. It's also like all good sports, it's very much a mental game. It requires real focus. You lose the focus, you don't make the shots. So I like basketball. I'm a big Boston Celtics fan. Not big, but I'm a Celtics fan. I like baseball. I haven't watched baseball in the last few years. I used to like it a lot. It's just too time consuming, so I haven't really watched it recently. But I like baseball. I like the batter versus the pitcher, the drama. Baseball has a very slow pace, but a very dramatic pace. And it's very much a mind game. So I think that's a beautiful game. It's also super fun to watch a live baseball game in a sense of the stadium. Baseball stadiums are just beautiful. On a sunny day, to be out there and yeah. So I like watching baseball live. Yeah, tennis. Tennis is a lot of fun to watch, although again, I don't watch it much. Generally, I don't watch sports much. It's so time consuming. What are the sports? Yeah, and I watch the Olympics. I love the Olympics when it happens every 4 years. And a little bit even the Winter Olympics, but certainly the Summer Olympics I watch. I'm Meerkat. Happy Purim, Yaron. It's Purim. I didn't even know that. So much for me being Jewish. Let's drink until we can't tell apart. Joe the Sleepy and Donald the Loser. P.S. Gaza must be destroyed. I don't drink. Not really. Not to that level. And Purim. I haven't celebrated Purim in 40 years or more. All right, Robert says, we could start a YBS troll mention tip bar, but we'd all go broke after a few episodes. I know, you would. Of course, you'd get into these deep, intense, passionate, schism-inducing arguments about what counts as a troll and what doesn't, right? I know you objectivists. You can't agree on anything. So, but... All right, ETG says, how do you do Super Chats? Can't find anywhere. As he does a Super Chat. Thank you, ETG. I appreciate the support. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you to all the Super Chatters. Thanks for the support. Thanks for all the stickers. I will see you all tomorrow. We've got a really interesting show about how to bring about, how to create the future, how to bring about the future. It should be a lot of fun, and it would be a positive show. It's going to be called Towards a Braver Future. So Towards a Braver Future, that'll be at 2 p.m. East Coast time. Before that, I'm doing a show in Hebrew for the Ayn Rand Center Israel, and that'll also be streamed on my channel, but it will be in Hebrew, so most of you, almost all of you, won't understand it, but I have a feeling Ayn Meerkat might be there. All right, guys, I'm off to the debates. I've got a half an hour to get ready for it. Talk to you soon. Bye.